Several years ago, as I was sitting in class in Bible college, our professor warned us that if there ever came the day when the majority of congregants in Pentecostal churches were no longer Spirit baptized with the initial evidence of speaking in other tongues, then we would effectively no longer be a Pentecostal church. I've heard that over and over again. But the truth is, I really doubt there was ever a time where the majority of our congregants testified to being Spirit baptized and speaking in other tongues. I'm not suggesting that was not important. That is what shaped and defined the movement. But I just don't think there's any evidence to suggest ever that the majority of all who attended Pentecostal worship services spoke in tongues or could testify of this being Spirit baptized. But I do want to suggest that it's Spirit baptism and speaking in other tongues is the primary motif by which Pentecostal believers have been formed. Now think a moment about what you witness or what we witness when someone is baptized in the Spirit. The inspired preacher has preached a soul-stirring message and initiated the altar call. Those who are convicted of the Holy Spirit of their sins and convinced they need to be saved, they come to the altar and they begin praying. Then the preacher suggests maybe there are some that need to be sanctified. More come to the altar. More begin to move forward. And then finally, the pastor in the altar call will suggest, if you've never been filled with the Spirit, if you've never spoken in other tongues, come and seek the Holy Spirit. And then as that seeker comes and kneels at the altar, others will gather around them, lay hands on them. There's music in the background. The pastor is continuing to exhort those to push forward and to pray through. People begin sobbing and weeping. People begin speaking with other tongues. People are singing. Maybe there's dancing and shouting. It's a rather noisy event. Then suddenly there is that breakthrough. The person seeking the baptism of this Holy Spirit begins to rejoice and begins to speak in that ecstatic language, speaking in other tongues. People begin to clap. People begin to sing. People begin to rejoice. The angels of glory begin to rejoice. One more believer has been filled with the fullness of God. What just happened? What just happened was a single believer had a dynamic experience in the Holy Spirit. But it's more than that. It's not just limited to what happened to that single believer. Everything that just happened is a communal event. The entire community was affected by what just happened and what was going on. Everyone was singing. Everyone was watching. Everyone was encountering the event at the altar. Even those who were sitting in the fringes and maybe a little fearful of what was going on, they were formed and informed by what they witnessed. And this is the point that I want to make. Pentecostal worship that is inspired of the Holy Spirit and worship that is focused on believers being filled with the Spirit of God, those acts are formative. They form the way we understand Christian spirituality. When someone is baptized in the Holy Spirit, it's not simply an event limited to that single individual. It is an event experienced by everyone who is present in the congregation. And it forms us. It makes us hungry that all be filled with the Holy Spirit. It brings conviction that we all need to pray through. It reminds us that heaven has come down and glory has filled our soul. So what I'm suggesting is, instead of pushing away or backing away from some of those encounters and experiences in classical Pentecostalism, let's not forget them. I'm wondering how many of our young people have witnessed what I just described. Are these kinds of encounters typical in many Pentecostal churches today? Or have we moved on from an altar encounter? Are we talking about being baptized in the Holy Spirit? Are we suggesting that it takes more than a 3-minute prayer at the altar, that maybe we need to press through or pray through, that we can get that breakthrough with God? I want to suggest that there is a treasure here in classical Pentecostal spirituality that forms the way that a community seeks God and a community encounters God. And I'm hungry to see that again and again. God bless you.